All right, welcome to the All American Hoops Podcast, episode 52. So, every episode I do an athlete that wore the number of the episode. Didn't do my research ahead of time this time. I can't think of any basketball players, but I do know that Jonas Cespedes of the New York Mets used to wear the number 52.
I can tell you more 52.
Who wore 52, Kev?
Jamal Wilkes, Hall of Famer, and
Jamal
jersey
Wilkes.
retired by the Los Angeles Lakers.
Fantastic. Yeah, perfect segue. Yeah. So here joining me is NBA TikToker KevLovesNBA. Thanks for joining us, Kev.
What is up, dude? We've known each other for a while, not like personally, but like,
right. Yeah. I think
probably like 2 years now.
Probably, yeah. Like we've interacted with each other on stream a couple times, and then I think the first time we did the show together was on 6 Degrees North with Fluence and Jalen Carter those couple times, and then we're also on the Hall of Fame thing together. So yeah, definitely happy to finally do a show together because we have a lot in common with our passion of the history of the game. So now we're actually have an opportunity to discuss some historical basketball while also diving into some current aspects of the NBA. So super psyched about that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know many other people besides me, you, and Possible Chairs and Hoops Temple that have a top 100 list. But yeah, I've been on their show. They haven't been on mine yet, where we just kind of spoke a little bit about. So I'm definitely excited about that. But before we actually, before I share my screen in which I'm going to show everyone the top 100, would you mind just you already told me, but would you mind telling everyone what your exact criteria is when you're building your top 100 list?
Yeah. So my list was extremely influenced by my tribal chief, Aaron Schroeder on Possible Chairs. I love that guy. He's really inspired me on a lot of things. So I looked at his criteria and then I looked at what I cared about, and it was peak, prime, accolades, which for some reason NBA TikTok is trying to tell you doesn't matter. So don't listen to them. Dominance, playoff production, effect on winning, and effect on teammates. And those things really matter to me. Everyone's always just like, which one's the most important? It's just like, really, it's the most important is kind of depends on the player, because Scottie Pippen is the prime example of he doesn't have his peak isn't as good as a lot of other guys. His prime isn't as good as a lot of other guys. And you can even say his production isn't as good as a lot of other guys. But the reason why he's rated so highly, and I feel like he's getting a little underrated, is the fact that his effect on winning was there. His accolades are there, and also his effect on his teammates was there. And Scottie Pippen's the prime example of that. So those things just really matter to me.
100%. My whole issue with the whole accolades doesn't matter crowd is that it's one thing if you have a guy who his life is watching basketball, all he does is watch basketball 24/7, which I don't know how many people on the planet are like that. Unless you're going to watch film, hours and hours of film on every single player in history, how are you going to in any way obviously you can look up stats, also you're going to look up certain other things. It's don't get me wrong, accolades aren't the end all be all, but they're a stamp in our history. There's a reason that they won the award, and it's a huge accomplishment. So they 100% matter to me.
Yeah. Also, a lot of the time they're always just I don't care what the media says. The media is biased, and then you're just okay, well, here are all the players that the media talks about, and this is their All NBA teams, and they're just most times people either agree or think one guy should be on. If a guy's on the third team, they're like, oh, they should be on the second team, and that guy should be on the third.
Right.
It's you generally agree with the media. You just don't like that your favorite player isn't as appreciated. And I think that's honestly why people don't care about accolades, is because their favorite players, guys like Kyrie Irving and guys like that, are just not as, they don't have the accolades, and then people try to ignore them. And it's just like you said, it's a snapshot of the season. It gives you a general idea. Now, They don't always tell the full story. Someone like Joakim Noah, who's All NBA first team, he probably was the best center, or at least the second best center, but he wasn't a top 5 player, but he was arguably a top 10 guy. And
or even Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic finishing top 2 in MVP, but neither of them could have only one of them were able to make first team All NBA that year. So definitely certain aspects like that.
Yeah, so they matter. The same, like you just said, unless you're watching the entire season, what is it? So the eye test, I realize, is so dumb, because I've had people come onto my lives, and I do lives all the time. In fact, I did one just before this, and it's always eye test. It's just I've asked people this. I've said Kobe Bryant played 1,467 games. How many of those games did you watch? And they're like, oh, maybe 50 or 100. Just then how are you doing the eye test on a guy's career? Eye tests matter for games. I can tell you Kawhi's game 7 in 2019. That's an eye test thing, but you can't really do an eye test on a career.
Exactly. Yeah. 100% agree with that. Yeah, yeah, but like, yeah, my criteria is essentially the same. Yeah, focus mostly. Yeah, but both of us agree that peak does matter a little more than longevity. Yeah, longevity is factored into mine, but not as much. Um, yeah, like, do mention accolades, and then and when it does come down to it, winning does matter a ton to me. I understand that not everyone's put in the best situation, but however, if you have like a little
What'd you do in that situation?
for winning,
Well, no,
most
no. That my thing is like if not everybody's put in the best situation, like you just said. So it's just like, okay, what did they do in that
oh yeah,
situation? You know, it's like
exactly,
people
yeah,
criticize Magic Johnson for being on the Lakers. It's just like, okay, you're right. He got put into a great situation. What did he do with that situation? Well,
yeah.
he won 5 titles and he went to 9 NBA finals. Sounds like he took advantage of the great situation. We the NBA fans are strange. We criticize or we get upset when someone doesn't have enough help, and then when they have enough help, oh well, it's like, they didn't deserve it. They look at the help they had. It's just like pick a lane, and stick with it.
Yeah, as the guy who has multiple Celtics jerseys in the back, it drives me up a wall, and people say like, "Oh, he had too much help." Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but
I think,
pay them.
yeah, I finally tweeted like I tweeted like over the finals last year. It's a, like I think it's very cool that Jason Tatum has a lot of help because it helps him win, and I don't really care if if he if that's going to drop him down in some people's rankings. He's winning, and he's contributing to winning. So that's all. That's really all that matters to me at the end of the day. Cool. Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen real quick of the it's a little side by side of our um
Yeah, I went through your list.
mhm, mhm,
Definitely noticed some names. Our
yeah,
lists aren't too different, but
no,
there were
yeah,
some people on here that we need to talk about.
for sure. Okay, so okay, yeah, so neither of us like talking about the goat debate a ton, but but however, I figured since like there have been I've seen like a couple of big creators do like switch ups on who exactly they like on who they prefer now. Like yeah, like more specifically, like Nerd Stash changed like said he changed his mind on the goat debate. He has now LeBron over MJ. Is there anything that you could do to change your mind to have LeBron over MJ at this point in their career?
If he wins a title.
Yeah,
Or if he has a really great playoff run, then it's just like, okay, it's getting harder and harder to deny it. But the thing is with LeBron is that this is where I think you brought up longevity. I think longevity can matter to a point, and sometimes people don't even know what longevity even really is. Because I saw a live on TikTok where someone said that Kobe has better longevity than Shaq, and it's just like you don't even know what the word longevity means
exactly.
because he played 20 years. It's easy to do math. His last 3 years weren't good, and his first 2 years in the NBA weren't that great. So that's five, and you can like negate or add a year or whatever. So I don't think LeBron's longevity matters for certain players, but it's hard to do it when Jordan in 14 years did more than what LeBron did in 22 years.
Exactly.
More
Mhm,
MVPs, more titles, more finals MVPs, more all defensive teams, more scoring titles,
mhm.
like longevity can only mean so much. It's just like if
Yeah.
that's your only reasoning why he's better or greater than Jordan, then I think that's kind of faulty logic.
Yes, so my entire thing is that yeah, so you nailed on it, but like my exact wording is, what is the point of longevity if you are not going to if you're not going to accomplish as much as a guy who played for less than you. Like the one thing that I will give LeBron the nod, or not the one thing, there's a couple of things I give LeBron the nod on. It's the fact that he has like 20 he's like 20 all NBA caliber seasons to MJ's 11, so like that's like that's kind of like a big edge LeBron, so like obviously he has like all the longevity stats numbers ahead of him, so yeah, so I really don't have much of an issue with the point, but the fact of the matter is that MJ did have a good amount of longevity. He played for it's not like he was like a Bill Walton peak. He played like a good amount of years as the best player as like all time greatness.
Yeah, he
And
played 15 years.
yeah,
That's
15 years. Yeah,
like
and
go look at all the guards that were around like in
yeah,
NBA history, like 13, 14 years when he retired in Chicago, and then those 2 extra seasons. He actually played like 16 years. That's good. That's decent longevity.
yeah,
Like
for sure. Mhm.
Reggie Miller played 18 years, and that's what, two or three more than Michael Jordan. Like to me, it's all the same. It's like
Yeah,
longevity matters to a point. Like
of
you can
course.
only use it so much.
Mhm. Yeah, and at the end, at the end, yeah, like, and at the end of the day, like, I just think that there was never a day in whatever you think LeBron's peak is, whether it be 2009, 2013, people say 2018, I think they're crazy. I think, MJ has a solid 3 or 4 seasons better than LeBron's last season. That's my personal opinion, though.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say that 93 to me is the best version of Jordan. I
Mhm.
think LeBron's peak is definitely in consideration with Jordan. I don't think it's better. But I think 2013, with the efficiency, the success of the team, and then how he was playing with his defense and everything, it's definitely in the conversation. I don't get why people say 2018. I think it's because that's the best version of LeBron offensively,
It's also
just in terms of like what he could do on the floor, because he's probably more consistent and more reliable than 2013.
It was like the best carry job too. He's like you said, like yeah, people love the idea of a floor raiser, which floor raising is important. But like at the end of the day, like which I'm not saying he didn't ceiling raise too, because he did. But like floor raising, is what people love these days, and I think that's I definitely think that I'd much rather have 09 and 13 LeBron over those 2 years over the 22, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3 we agree upon, and so 4 through 8 is something that is like one that like I've remained firm on, but however, like, it's I've remained firm on it, but like at the same time, I'm also like, oh gee, I don't know, like it's a I wouldn't be mad at someone if they put Shaq at number 4, because like, we talked about Shaq before, but so yeah, I realize you have locks next to Russell and Duncan. So do you want to talk about both those players and why you have them that high?
Well, yeah, I don't think they're high at all. I think they're perfect. I
Mhm.
mean, one of the things I noticed your list was immediately that you had Larry Bird and Magic Johnson in your top 5.
Mhm.
My thing is with Larry Bird and Magic Johnson is that Magic Johnson, him and Stephen Curry is clearly a conversation. Who's the best? I think Magic is the best, but is it a debate between him and Steph? It obviously is. So it's hard for me to have Magic Johnson that high, especially in your top 5, if him and Steph is a conversation. Now, I don't know how you feel about him and Steph, but I think it's obvious. I think it's clearly a conversation. The fact that Steph was the best player in a 73-9 win team, the fact that he's unanimous MVP, the fact that he is also one of the greatest offensive players of all time, up there with Magic. He's a top 5 offensive player next to Magic. He's a top 5 playmaker with Magic. He's one of the greatest scorers. He's one of the greatest shooters. He has one less title, but he doesn't have as many finals MVPs. Now, is Magic Johnson's passing and playmaking more valuable to the Lakers than Matt Curry's shooting? You can make an argument that it is or it isn't. So that's why I don't think you can have Magic that high, just because I do think Steph can surpass Magic. So if I think Steph can surpass Magic, does that mean that I think Steph can be a top 5 player? I don't think so. I don't think Steph can ever be a top 5 player. So I just don't think I can have Magic that high. And sometimes I debate, and it's this weird conundrum between Magic, Larry Bird, and Kobe. Same thing with Larry. I just don't think Larry. I don't think Larry had as much success as someone like a Duncan or a Bill Russell or even a Shaq for a sustained period of time. I think Larry, there's a reason why he won 3 titles in within like the first 9 years of his career, and then after that he was basically done. Not done, but his team just wasn't really going to win a title again. And I know you're a Boston fan, so I don't know if that had anything to do with the fact that Larry Bird was top 4.
I won't admit it, but maybe.
Yeah. So that's why I don't think Larry and Magic can be top 5. They obviously were top 5 at one point, but I have Larry at 8 and Magic at 7. I think Magic should be above Larry. I think the fact that Magic was able to stay on just a little bit longer and had more team success while also having that that repeat and having more titles. And I do think that he was a notch better than Larry, but obviously it's close. But that's kind of my 2-bit piece on those two. So I would put Duncan and Russell over them because I think Duncan had a longer sustained success. I also think he peaked higher than both of them, and Russell is just the definition of a winner, and his defense was the main factor for all of it. I don't think people realize that.
Yeah, you're not going to get much pushback from me on Bill Russell, given he's the best defender of all time. If we're talking relative there, it's not even close. Yeah, offense is a problem, which is not a problem.
His offense wasn't even that bad, though. It's like one of the greatest passers and playmakers.
Yeah, passing playmakers for sure. Yeah, like I feel like that you'd be splitting hairs if you said that's a problem, which is exactly what I'm doing. But yeah, like I am going to disagree with you on Duncan's peak. I don't. Yeah, like I'm not sure if he was as good as Bird or Magic. Given that he was like in an interesting scenario where like obviously he was the best player and he was the dynasty, but at the same time I feel like a lot of the numbers that you see like his teammates had like in his 2003 carry job, that they call it a carry job, which but my issue with that is that like every single game it was like one of those things where he just had like a brand new player like that stepped it up like in that game. So but I mean,
if you don't have consistent help and you don't have a guy that you can rely on, I feel like that is kind of terrifying. Like, who's going to step up today? Is it going to be Ginobili? Is it going to be Tony Parker? Is it going to be Stephen Curry? Is it going to be Malik Rose?
Right.
Like, if you don't have that consistent guy, it can be worrying because
Mhm.
it can be nobody at the exact same time.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I just think like if we're talking overall like quality of play, and Duncan was an amazing defender and has like amazing longevity, but I feel like like peak of the powers, I'm like I'm relatively confident in my pick to take Bird and Magic over him, mainly because as great as Duncan was defensively, I definitely don't think that his ability to like anchor defense was as good as Bird and Magic's ability to just like totally take over a game offensively.
And I think that's fair, but I think the thing that with where I have Duncan over Magic and Larry in terms of their peak, and it's not like it's like Duncan's clearing. Like in my all time peak list, I have Duncan 5, Magic 7, and Larry Bird 8. So they're all relatively
Mhm.
close. My thing with Duncan is that he was anchoring an entire offense, and they were relying on him because I think that's a thing when I have to deal with a lot on my lives and just people in general. And this is why sometimes I get annoyed when I'm on my lives because it's like clear that people just hear names. And like I've had people say like Duncan played with 4 Hall of Famers and Kawhi, Pop,
Yeah,
Parker, and Ginobili, and it's just like you're saying names, but you're not actually
how
looking
they
at their
contributed.
career.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
exactly.
not doing context. In 03, they won a title. They won 60 games. They had one of the better offenses and better defenses in the league because of Duncan. The fact that Duncan was averaging a 25 point a game regular season, while being their team the best scorer, rebounder, playmaker, and defender. Like
Mhm.
they relied entirely around him. And the fact that random guys would go off, it kind of shows that anybody could really play with Duncan and anybody can have a great game with Duncan
Mhm.
because it's Tim Duncan. And I think that's just also the fact that David Robinson was old. Parker
True.
is a second year player and he's not reliable. And Ginobili's a rookie and he's still elevating all these guys and they're winning 60 plus games. There was no secondary or reliable guy next to him and they still won a title and he still dominated and carried them to 60 wins. Like I get what you're saying about Magic and Larry because offensively they could dictate they can play with anybody and they'll like still, cut apart the defense and elevate everybody. But I just think the fact that Duncan as a big with no reliable secondary help around him, and he was still able to win just as many
Mhm.
games as Bird and Magic and still elevate them to
Yeah.
where they're beating the Shaq and Kobe Lakers and they're beating Dirk and Steve Nash and all that, and then beating Jason Kidd and Kenya Martin in
Right.
the finals. It
Mhm.
says a lot to me.
Yeah, yeah, certainly a fair argument. So as far as it goes for Shaq, because like Shaq, I feel like Shaq is I mentioned like he is I think that he is a top 2, 3, maybe two peak all time. Do you have Duncan ahead of him for like I'm assuming is it defense and longevity? Is that it, or is it something else too?
I just think Duncan was more consistent. Did Duncan have the highs of Shaq? No, but he didn't have the lows of Shaq.
True.
I feel like how you play matters and how your play affects your team matters. And the fact that Shaq, it's weird. Shaq played with the Magic, the Lakers, the Heat, the Suns, the Cavs, and the Celtics. Shaq played with 6 teams. That's weird. Go look
It
at
is.
anybody in the top 10. Other than LeBron, nobody else has played for more than 2.
Yeah.
And Shaq played for 6. And I think
Mhm.
it's because Shaq, just his ego, his inability to sometimes take a step back. And also, I just think that he just wasn't that great of a leader. Now, I think he was a great enough leader to win you 3 titles. But when Shaq was in a bad mood and when Shaq was getting in his own way, because sometimes he could be a clown, it it messed up his team. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear. I was gonna like it
It's
messed
fine.
up his yeah,
Yeah.
it fucked up his team.
Yeah.
Like there's the
Yeah.
reason why he got traded and he got signed to other teams. And Duncan, I just value that. The fact that there was no rocking of the ship, the fact that there was no trade rumors. That he did almost leave San Antonio, but guess what? He didn't, and he ended up winning 4 more titles. It's a
Right.
dynasty, and I think Shaq's dynasty in LA was short and it maybe had a higher peak, but I think the longevity of 50 19 50 plus win seasons, 5 titles, 6 NBA finals, losing once, like I don't think it's obviously a conversation. I have Shaq 6, so obviously it's a
Right.
conversation, but what um what Duncan did, I just think is extremely underrated.
Like yeah, 100% agree with all that. So yeah, we have the same exact 10 guys in our top 10, just in a different order, 4 through 8, because we do it the same 9 and 10 as well. But yeah, we can we can do 11 through 20, then we can just talk about whatever we want after that. It's for the most part the same guys in our 11 through 20 as well. Hang on, let me just zoom out a little bit actually, so we can get a few more of
Oh,
these guys.
you can't throw up the side by side.
What do you mean?
You said that you were going to share your screen. Like, are you going to throw it up on the screen or no?
Oh, you're not seeing the screen? Oh,
No, right now it's just us. It's just us two.
okay. Hang on a second.
Unless the audience can see something different. I just thought I'd point it out to you. I didn't
Okay.
know.
Okay. Yeah. Give me a minute. So what about now?
I don't see it. I've been on other lives where I could see it, so maybe I don't know if it's
Okay.
just me. But
Okay. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure then. But yeah, we'll do that in a oh wait, here it is.
there you go.
There we go. Okay, cool. So
Well, that's the ringer list.
that's the ring list. Okay. Jesus. Okay. Yeah, can you tell I haven't done this a lot? Okay.
No, you're
So
fine, dude. Hey,
yeah.
man, that's it's fine.
New computer too. Yeah, like I literally got screenshots of this. It made it a lot easier, but I think we can do this in 1 minute. Not 1 minute, 30 seconds, a couple seconds. But
By the way, I think my girlfriend's watching, so shout out to my girlfriend. She just texted me.
oh, nice. Yeah, yeah. My girlfriend tunes in every week, but she's actually in a work trip down in Texas. So yeah, I don't think she's watching now, but she'll usually hear shout out Olivia. So
Shout out Rena.
nice. So so yeah, so you can see. Can you see that now? No, probably not. Actually, give me 1 sec. There we go. Okay.
There we
So
go.
yeah, it's not really clear, but that's okay. So so we have like a very similar 11 through 24. It looks like so both of us have a Keeman Wilt KD like 11 through 13. We have then you have Jokic a little bit higher as of now. You also have Giannis a little bit higher, and do have Dirk. Not Dirk. You do have KG a little bit lower, and then we have like the mixture of Chuck and D Wade as well.
Yeah, I'm
So
not the biggest fan of Kevin Garnett. I don't
and
hate the guy. A lot of people
yeah,
accuse me of hating people, but I just don't. I just don't
no,
think his
yeah,
career is as great as
and,
people try to make it out to be.
right, yeah, yeah. I saw your video on that. I've like I'm like a little mixed on Garnett, and not because he's a Celtic, but like mainly just because if this is another thing I wanted to talk about. There's another thing I want to talk about because I read Thinking Back Basketball. He's like by I forgot the guy's name. I don't know if you Ben Taylor, who Hoop Venue. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Tyler Britton. He's been on the show before. They're like super analytical, so they love guys like Garnett. They love guys like David Robinson. Very high in Jokic even before he started winning. So I respect those guys because like it's very individualized. Like like they know like it shows like their ability to like truly make the most out of everything. But I don't know how much. Yeah, how much do you look at the at like advanced stats like when you look at stuff like that?
Advanced stats matter, but they can only do so much. Like I remember I listened to a podcast that talked about Garnett's analytical impact, and they're just like, analytically, he's probably one of the greatest of all time,
Mm-hmm.
but those analytics can only take you so far. Like here's some things that don't involve, running on the court, dunking the basketball, or the squeaks that come from your shoes. I blame Garnett's contract. Like I was re-upping my knowledge on the Garnett contract, and they offered him 7 years for $100 million, which was in the ballpark of Alonzo Mourning and Juwan Howard. He declined it, and then they ended up giving him $163 million. Guess what? That's like nearly half of your cap. And because Garnett signed that contract, if he had just signed the $100 million like they offered him, guess what? He would have had better teammates. And the analytics again can only carry you so far. They put you in the conversation, and then if you're failing to meet if your analytics are saying that you're one of the greatest, and then you're failing to meet that expectation, then I feel like those analytics are just hurting you. Garnett's
Yeah.
contract, because of Garnett's contract, they lost Tom Gugliotta, they lost Stephon Marbury, they lost Chauncey Billups. They had to do the Joe Smith thing where they had to mess with the cap, and then they lost all their picks, guys that could have joined Garnett's team that were within the realm of the picks they had, guys like Gerald Wallace, Tony Parker, Zaza Pachulia, guys like that Anderson Varejao, guys that could have helped Garnett's team potentially since they were around the order. And guess what? Because of Garnett's contract, they kind of messed it up. And then, so that's my thing with Garnett is that this has nothing to do with the analytics. It's the fact that the contract that he signed kept him from having good teammates. It's the fact that in elimination games for Minnesota, he's 18-10 on 40%. It's the fact that during the 7 first-round exits, he's 21 points on 45% shooting from the field. Analytics can only mean so much if you're losing and not showing up,
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely fair. I think people just like because the other thing with that, because like one thing that people do like this also brings back to the whole no accolades thing. People would like just like to look at like the body of work and like just like look at the individualized base. They're like, oh, too many outside factors go into these things. There are a lot of outside factors that go into on the court production. And
Yeah.
like you said, like a ton of like it's not just like it's obviously it's you don't just throw like a bunch of guys together who might play well together and then everything's
It's not
gonna work out.
2K.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not 2K. So shout out Kenny Beecham.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, it's like a tough fine line because like people look at Garnett, they think he's the best best playmaking power forward of all time. He's like debatably a top 5 defender outside of the big three. Some people call him like the best. The big three being Hakeem, Russell, and Duncan. And yeah, they love his versatility, they love his toughness, and yeah, like some people, like I've seen some people have him like in like top 15. I'm like, listen, like if you want to have him like inside the top 20, like I'm at 19. I can see him being as high as I think 19 is the highest you can have. I think that's the highest you can have.
I've seen people have him as high as 13. I've seen people have him in the top
The
15. On
the guy,
Player's Choice, they had someone who said that Garnett could easily be a top 10 player of all time. It's just like,
the guy I mentioned, Tyler Burton. He was on my show over the summer. Yeah, he had him. Like, he said he would probably change it by now, but like he used to have him like number 10 on the dot. Like that is wild. Like you had to look at something else besides the spreadsheet and it was your so-called eye test. Like I don't know.
yeah, because here's another thing. That same podcast that talked about Garnett's analytical said that, guess what? Other guys that analytically hold up, guys like Andre Karolinko and Gerald Wallace and Sean Marion, and no one would ever say any of those guys are top 10 players
Right.
of all time.
Mhm.
And that's where I've been saying this a lot lately, and this kind of has become my new catchphrase. And some people said that I wouldn't say I'm popularizing it, but it's something that I've heard other people say. You like the idea of Kevin Garnett, not what Kevin Garnett actually is.
Yes. Mhm.
The idea of Garnett analytically seems like one of the most greatest all-around players of all time. There is no flaw. And then what was the actual production? Like,
Right.
you're right. You're looking at a spreadsheet of what the player could have done. He is
Mhm.
doing all this. And oh my God, if he's doing all this, what success is there? It's not a whole lot of success. And yeah, he
Exactly.
played in the West, and that's tough. If he was
Mhm.
in the East, they probably get to the finals a few times or whatever. But I got to look at for what he did and what happened. And the analytics only go so far.
Exactly. So you have both Giannis and Jokic higher than me. What you had Jokic at 14, Giannis at 18, and I have Jokic at 17, Giannis at 22. So I think it's because I think for me personally, it's because I'm usually a little hesitant to jump guys so far ahead. Like I didn't even consider like even when Steph won the title in 2022, I still didn't move him into my top 10. So so what's your reasoning behind like moving Giannis and Jokic up? Like I don't want to say so quickly because like most people agree with you, but like what's your rationale behind like moving those two like where they are? Like,
Nikola Jokic is one of the greatest offensive players of all time. I don't need to see anything else.
yeah,
What has he been doing the last 4 or 5 years? And that's more than enough. It's the fact that he's already one of the greatest playmakers of all time, one of the greatest passers of all time, one of the greatest playoff producers of all time. The fact that his title, they went 16-3. How many championship teams go 16-3 in the playoffs?
and I wrote it was when I was writing an article about the Celtics. I think like only the Celtics went. Was it 16-3 or was it 16-4? Because Celtics went 16-3
In 2008?
So, no, 24. Yeah, I think it was 16.
Oh, yeah, the Celtics.
Yes. So only the Celtics in 2024 and the Warriors in 2017. Since they made the first rounds 4 games, only the Celtics and the Warriors have had better playoff record than the Nuggets in 2023.
Yeah, so it's like they're not an all-time team. Obviously, they won 53 games. They're like it's not like their team. It's not like they have one of the greatest teams of all time. But the fact that Jokic has been able to turn guys like Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Kentavious Caldwell, they all became infinitely better because they're playing with one of the best big passers of all time. And this is where I get into arguments with people where they're just like, Nikola Jokic can't play defense. If you're one of the greatest offensive players of all time, your defense just doesn't matter. It just don't matter. You could be, and that's the thing is Jokic isn't even a bad defender. It's not even like he's a net negative.
He's an elite pick and roll defender. He's like he's not a great render. He's not not like a great rim defender. He struggles against Embiid, so does everyone else. He struggles against AD, so does everyone else.
That's the thing is if you're one of the greatest offensive players of all time, you're one of the greatest playoff producers, one of the best scorers, one of the greatest passers, playmakers, and your ability to elevate guys is clearly obvious, then I don't care if you're a bad defender. And it didn't matter because he's won 3 MVPs. He's been to the NBA Finals and he won. He led the playoffs in points, rebounds, and assists. Like, give me that over Garnett's two-way ability. Give me Stephen Curry's offense over Kobe Bryant's two-way ability any day of the week. Like, I just feel like that matters more than two-way because how many times is two-way how many times does that even actually end up working out? Really, like some of the best two-way players are some of the elite guys. Paul George is a great two-way guy, and I'm not hearing anybody tell me that he should be above other people. I just always hated that conversation. Like, if you're one of the greatest offensive players of all time, I will take that over a two-way ability every day. And I think that's what hurt Garnett.
Yeah.
I think that's what hurt Garnett. The fact that he wasn't that great of an offensive player. He was a good offensive player, but he wasn't that great of a scorer. Dirk was a great scorer, and that's why he got to conference finals and championships and NBA finals.
Yeah.
Garnett really didn't.
I love guys that play on both sides of the ball. Like if I'm building my team, like if that's the tiebreaker, I'm able to do that. But like there is no tiebreaker with Jokic. Jokic is a top 5 offensive player of all time. Like there is no more. People say like, oh, what about Embiid? Plays defense. Embiid is not even. He's not in the same stratosphere as Jokic offensively. Even if Embiid drops, even if he averages like 34 a game, he's not contributing to winning on the offensive end as much as Jokic is with his playmaking and with his offensive rebounding and everything. Two-way ability is very important to me, but not when we're comparing him to Nikola Jokic or Steph Curry or Magic Johnson. It's one of those things. Giannis is one that I'm a little hesitant on to move him a little bit higher because my thing with Giannis is 2021 was one of the best runs that we've seen. Like he had one debatably the best finals game of all time in Game 6. My issue, however, with him is I think that his inability, like in this era, I think that his inability to not only his inability, but like his unwillingness to go to the free throw line, and like the fact that that's like hurt him so many times, like in like big games, which you could say the same about like Malone or Garnett for like certain aspects about this, but like if we're talking about exploiting weaknesses for the time that they played, I think that Giannis was like in a lot more of a weaker state than the three other power forwards I have ahead of him.
I disagree a little bit because here's my thing is that Malone and Giannis aren't afraid to go to the free throw line. It's more just that they're not 100% confident in it. Giannis still gets to the free throw line. Giannis still attacks the rim because that's his best skill. That's his best attribute. I just think the thing with Giannis is that he's gotten pretty unlucky the last few years because in 2022, the year after they won the title, they were a title contender. They didn't have Chris Middleton. And Giannis performed amazing against the Celtics, averaging 34 points per game. He showed up.
I will push back. I will push back on the Giannis in 2022. He was great in 2022. However, in the last 4 games, he wasn't even the best player on the court. Though Game 4, Jason Tatum, both Tatum and Horford played better than him. Game 5, Giannis was the best player on the court. Game 6, Tatum outplayed Giannis. And then Game 7, Grant Williams outplayed Giannis. So it's one of those things. Giannis played great, but like every game, he wasn't the best. The last 4 games, he was not the best player on the court. That's my issue with that.
No, and I agree with that. I just think that my thing is that he played great because of the fact that he did play great. But one of the things that you got to point out is the fact that he didn't have his second best player.
Right.
And also, I think one of the things that everybody was complaining about is that team just overall. There's this weird hangover. Some guys just weren't as good. Guys like Pat Connaughton and a few other people just weren't as good as they were the year prior.
Drew was extremely inefficient in that series. Yeah,
Drew was. Oh my God, that's the one thing I feel like people forget with Drew is the fact that he, one day he's like the most unstoppable offensive guy you've ever seen with his defense, and then the next day it's just like, can we get this guy? Can we is he like? Did one of his eyes get glued shut? Like, why is he like hitting the side of the backboard?
Celtic fans drive me crazy when they say this because like he's like, it's my brothers too that say this. They're like, oh, why the hell? Like the Bucks really gave us Drew Holiday for nothing. I'm like, no, Drew was not. This is not this version of Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday did not have. He had like all the responsibilities on offense. He had a higher time of possession than Giannis in like some of the series. I'm like he's going literally from the second option because Middleton was out for a good of those. He's going from the second option to the fourth or fifth option. He's in
also, he doesn't have to create.
Yes.
Tatum and Brown can create. Giannis couldn't really create in terms of like the way that these two guys can.
Exactly.
He's an inside presence. He's a dominant scorer on the inside. They relied on Drew. They're like, all right, Drew, bail us out. And it's like Drew's not that kind of guy.
They're like, yeah, Drew so much. They're like, they're like, yo, Drew's so much better. And I'm like, okay, no, Drew's not better than Dame. Relax. Like, it's
no,
like
he's not. No. See, this Bucks thing is really fucked up the Dame thing because I've had people tell me that they'd much rather have Drew Holiday than Dame, and I will get that to a point.
As my third option, I'd rather have Drew Holiday, but like, on like a stack team, I'd rather have Drew Holiday than Dame. But like, if not every team can be the Celtics. If we're building a real team with like a balanced team, I want Dame as my first or second option. I have Drew. Like, it's one of those things.
Yeah. No, like, like, what is it? Like, I would much rather, like, I don't know what there's an example, but it's like, I'm losing it. But like, you don't want Dame to be your third guy because that probably wouldn't work. You'd much rather have a role player guy who can play off of the stars. And how much can Dame play off of other guys? I don't know. I mean, I think he got traded a little too late. I don't think we can judge Dame when he's 34 years old after coming off of like 2 major surgeries playing with Giannis. So I don't know about that. But the thing with Giannis, though, is that he is a 2-time MVP. He's been the best player on teams that won 60-plus games. He did win a DPOY. He was clearly the best player in the league at certain points of time. He does have stellar playoff runs while also having some bad playoff runs. I just think, accolades-wise, he's already accomplished everything that guys like Dirk and Garnett and Karl Malone have done, and you can even say maybe even more. And he does have solid playoff success with games that are career-defining. Yeah. Just the one thing that has hurt Giannis that has made me wonder if maybe I do value him maybe a little too high is the last 3 playoff runs. Losing in the second round, though you performed great, it's not exactly a result that you want. Losing to the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler in the first round, a 1-8 seed, not exactly something you want on your resume. And then not even playing in the playoffs. He also got hurt in that playoff run too, so he barely played. And then this one, he didn't even play. And then what the hell's going to happen this year? I have no idea. So you might be right a little bit, but I just think, Giannis is easily above Garnett. I think he's definitely above Malone, and I think he's in conversation with Dirk, but I would still have him above Dirk.
Okay. Yeah. Fair takes all around. Okay. So, we don't need to go through every single player, but like, how about this? We could just like, I'm sure, you have the thing up on you as well. Like, are there any players like here that you either wanted to talk about or something that you disagreed with big time here? Is there anything?
I think you have Elvin Hayes too high. I thought, I love Isaiah Thomas. I'm a Pistons fan, and it's tough being a Pistons fan. These days, it's actually a little bit better. I think we're going to make the playoffs simply because the East is.
I have my brothers on the show all the time. You can ask them. Like, I was huge on the Pistons this year. I'm a big Tobias Harris fan, so which is
I'm not.
Oh no, yeah, I guess you know more than me about that. But just like I felt like he was going to be better, like in like his role, which he has been better in this role. But
Dave Cowens, I think you have too high. Like my thing with Dave Cowens, Elvin Hayes, and even someone like John Stockton is that Dave Cowens and Elvin Hayes, those are, Dave Cowens is a champion. Dave Cowens is an MVP. My thing is that it's such a short prime. The fact that's what, like 6-7 years. The fact that I just feel like it's not as good as other guys. Like an MVP and a championship mean a lot, but if someone like, in my opinion, someone like Steve Nash, who I think peaked higher, I think he meant more to his team. I think he had a longer form of success than the 3 years that the Celtics, the 2 out of 3 years that they won a title. I think you have Dave Cowens a little too high. And Elvin Hayes, by all accounts, based on the research I've done, was the original power forward that struggled in the clutch with guys like Karl Malone and Chris Webber and Garnett, where he wasn't even looking at the basket. His teammates hated him. His coaches hated him. I read a story where Elvin Hayes tried talking to one of the rookies and tried giving him some tips, and a coach pulled that rookie to the side and said, that guy is a Hall of Famer and one of the best players in NBA history. Don't fucking listen to a single word he says. And I was just like, damn, dude, no, Elvin Hayes, no, how is it possible? Elvin Hayes has exactly 50 minutes played. Fun fact, the reason why he did that is because he threatened the scorekeeper to be exact and to make sure to let people know that
I think I did see that actually.
Hit that exact moment. And if he didn't, he was going to beat his ass. So like Elvin Hayes, I get it. He was a very good player. I think he was the second best player. And you can argue that he was the best player on that Bullets team that won the title. But I feel like Elvin Hayes is slightly overrated. I mean, I have him 10 spots lower than you do. So clearly he's still in the top 50 conversation, but I don't think he's number 39.
Yeah. All those are fair takes. But you've definitely done deeper research on that than I have, but like, yeah, like from what I've heard, like from like a lot of the old timers, like yeah, like there are people that say he's actually one of the more underrated players of all time, but yeah, maybe that's just like an old head take.
No, I feel like a
yeah,
lot of guys, they respect the fact that Elvin Hayes was a 25 and 15 guy. I think
right.
they're
Mhm.
saying that he's underrated because he played great. But I think one of the things
Mhm.
is that Elvin Hayes is that I feel like you can take NBA players' opinions and use it as compliments, but you can't really use it
Of course.
as a
Yeah.
reasoning as to why they're good or underrated or whatever,
Mhm.
is because a lot of NBA players, I saw Will Barton say that Kobe Bryant was one of the toughest guys he ever played, and he played against Kobe Bryant 4 times, and in that span, Kobe Bryant averaged 18 points on 35% shooting.
Yeah.
So how seriously can you take Will Barton when
Exactly.
Will
Yeah.
Barton only played against Kobe 4 goddamn
Right.
times? So
Yeah.
my thing with Elvin Hayes is he was probably underrated because he probably would kick the other guy's ass on the court in terms of, like matching them, but he wasn't trusted in the fourth quarter. There's a reason why the Bullets lost 3 other finals appearances, or I believe he played in maybe 2 of them. And there's a reason why the Rockets weren't 100% successful with Elvin Hayes. It's because he wasn't really reliable. And I do
Right.
value that, and I don't think his peak and his prime is as good as other guys. And I certainly don't think his playoff production is good as other guys like Steve Nash.
Right. Let me do something real quick. I'm just gonna try to find the ones that we disagreed with the most. There's a couple of them that don't really matter, but yeah. So
some guys you had on here that I think were kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Guys like Penny Hardaway, Chris Bosh, Dikembe. I love Joe Dumars. I don't think Manu Ginobili, no. Adrian Dantley, Artis Gilmore. Like, I get it. Like, I kind of get it, but I just thought that some of those I was just like, oh, we got to have a conversation about that. Penny Hardaway, 3.5 years.
Okay.
3.5 years. I think he's better than Rajon Rondo, but I think he's more in the Rajon Rondo territory. Chris Bosh was also a really good power forward.
He's an 11-time All-Star. Come on.
Huh?
He's an 11-time All-Star.
He's an 11-time All-Star, but how much does that really mean when he's playing in the Eastern Conference? It's the same thing like Paul Millsap. Yeah. Paul Millsap is a 4-time All-Star, but would he make an All-Star team in the West? No. Yeah. So same thing like Bosh. Bosh probably wouldn't make an All-Star team when he's averaging 16 points and 6 rebounds. The All-Star appearances can only mean so much.
Well, it's when you have that. It's when you have that much. It's just like you like a really solid player for a very long time. That and the fact that he's a 2-time champion, and the fact that he made the Raptors relevant for that long when they weren't that great. So that
were they relevant? They made 2 playoff appearances. They struggled after 2008 in those 2 years to build a team around him. He was there for 7 years, and they made only 2 playoff appearances. They went 47 and 35. They lost to the Vince Carter Nets.
Vince Carter Nets, they were fine. Like they weren't great, but they were
good.
Yeah,
but like, and here's the thing: is I don't want anybody thinking this is the problem with NBA TikTok is that if you criticize a player, they think you hate them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like I defended Chris Bosh because someone made the absurd claim. I don't know if you saw this. And
yes, I did. I did see that. Yeah, Nick Claxton. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Oh, dude, this is crazy. Yeah, like the fact that they said that Chris Bosh was closer to Nick Claxton than to Anthony Davis.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that Chris Bosh is a top 3 player, top 5 player like Anthony Davis, but he's certainly closer to that 20 and 10 guy than he is to the other guy. Yeah, and I just think that's absurd. But I don't think he should be this high. He averaged like 14 points a game in those NBA finals he played with the Miami Heat. Like he was a valuable guy, but let's not act like he was like putting up like 20 and 10 numbers.
So that's another thing that I struggle with is because like I feel like a lot of these guys, a lot of the guys that like we have higher, like I screwed up the list, but like a lot of the guys that we have like in like the 60s are guys that like haven't won anything yet. And that's when it comes down to the guys that are like role players like later. And I know that people like I know that like Aaron and Nate have like a guy like LaMarcus Aldridge ahead of Draymond because like he's like a much like he's like someone that would be like a much better first option. But however, neither of them are good first options. So like I would rather have Draymond Green as that third guy option. Could Aldridge win the championship as a second option? Maybe. I don't know, but we've seen Draymond time and time again win it as the third best player. And in 2022, 2015, I think he was the second best player in the team too. So it's one of those things where like Manu Ginobili was the second best player in 2003 and probably maybe not, definitely not
barely though, not like all the time though. That's the thing is that second best player was probably Steven Jackson consistency wise.
Yeah.
And did Ginobili perform as the second best player at times? Sure.
I got the season wrong, but like I know that some people think that 05 Ginobili should have been the Finals MVP over Duncan, which I disagree with. But like some people feel that, but I don't know. Like I feel like if you produce results like consistently as like a role player, that's when I'm going to move you higher. So that's why I have guys like Ginobili, Dumars, and Bosch a little bit higher than most people.
Yeah, I think my thing where I push back on that a little bit is that, and that guy and like your friends, they sound like they're smart, but I feel like
I was talking about like which ones, like
the LaMarcus Aldridge,
that,
Draymond Green.
okay. Oh, that's possible. Cheers. That's Aaron. That said Aaron and Nate. That
Oh,
said that.
Aaron?
Yeah.
Oh no, my tribal chief. No. Oh God. Okay, yeah. Well, Aaron, I'm sorry, but I would disagree 1,000%. I think Draymond Green peaked higher than LaMarcus Aldridge.
Okay.
LaMarcus has great numbers, and I do value LaMarcus Aldridge. But I think the thing with Draymond Green is and LaMarcus Aldridge, and this goes into the higher point, is that this is where I don't care. This is why I say like my category, like when I look at my criteria, they all matter, because my thing with Draymond Green and LaMarcus Aldridge and just players in general, like Manu Ginobili and even Joey D. Like I love Joe Dumars. He played for my Pistons. He was in my original top 100, but eventually I had to pull him out because he was really good for a long period of time, but he wasn't great.
Right.
You know, same thing like Manu Ginobili. Manu Ginobili was really good, but he wasn't that great. Like Manu Ginobili was a good player, but he was never a great player.
He's another advanced nerds guy, like advanced nerds guy, because I've seen like a lot of like the nerds guys, they have him like in like their top 65. So I'm like guys, come on, let's dial back a little bit. Like it's
at some point, production has to matter. At some time, at some point, were they a top 10 player? Were they a top 5 player? Were they a top 5 shooting guard? Was Ginobili that? He possibly could have been, but there's a reason why he was never really in that conversation. I just think Ginobili and Joe Dumars and Chris Bosh and Dikembe Mutombo, and again, Ben Wallace. I love Ben Wallace to death. My Big Ben.
He was in your honorable mentions. Yeah, he was in your honorable mentions. I saw that.
I love Ben Wallace, but come on now. Like I love Ben Wallace. He was probably the best player on that title team. You know, he clearly had a great solid peak in prime, and he had the accolades. He was making all NBA teams, so clearly people recognized and realized who he was. I just think that comparatively, someone like Marcus Johnson, who you don't have on your list, someone like James Worthy, who you don't have. I don't believe you have Bill Sharman.
I have James Worthy. I actually have James Worthy higher than you, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you do have James Worthy. Okay, cool. I
30,
I didn't see him.
30 spots higher than you, actually.
Oh, okay, that's crazy. Yeah. Where do you got? Where? What number is he?
63. Yeah. So
I think that's way too high. Yeah. So
again, it's one of those things. He was a very good player, but he was like an essential piece to a dynasty team. So like maybe like I rank those guys a little too high, but he has like some all-time great performances though. Like maybe that's in comparison to role players.
He also has some really bad moments. I mean, it's funny because Bill Simmons talked about it with James Worthy. He said that nobody truly really respected James Worthy as a playoff guy until that game 7 where I believe he had the triple-double, and that's where he got big game James. But point to me other big game James moments. There's more bad ones than there are good ones.
Right.
But yeah, he was still great. I mean, I have him 93 simply because I don't think his peak is that great. 21 points and 7 rebounds is good, but I think he relied heavily on Magic Johnson to get him the ball. And then the moment Magic Johnson left, he's shooting like under 50% in the next 3 seasons.
Yeah. Nate's Hoop Temple actually said that like when I was on on their show the first time, he said like that's what drove him up a wall. Is like people like love to talk about how much they love the guy, and this is similar when we talked about Drew earlier. I love Drew Holiday more than anyone, but however, he has a for all of his great playoff moments, he has like especially in 2023 when he had to guard Jimmy Butler, and nobody really talks about how awful he was in that sense. So
yeah. Everybody forgets that one when Jimmy Butler smoked his ass and then gave him a kiss goodbye, and he made a game-winning shot over them that tied and all this other stuff. Yeah,
we have a few more disagree. Yeah, so like I have Worthy higher, Tiny hired, Dave Cowens. Dave Cowens that may have been just because like I appreciated that like the beginning of Bill Simmons' book when he was going back and forth with Kareem. So maybe that's where I
but my thing is Bill Simmons is also my hero. I think Aaron Schroeder has become like, I think the video he made on Rondo today was great. I just feel like some of these guys, I think you're kind of overvaluing them too much, and then you're undervaluing a few other guys like Marcus Johnson. The fact that Marcus Johnson was a top 5 MVP candidate, the fact that Marcus Johnson for like 7 years was 22, 9, and 5. The fact that he was the best or second best player on teams that are winning over 50 plus games. To me, that says more in a career than someone like Penny Hardaway, who, I think Penny Hardaway had a great peak and had a solid prime, but it's 3.5 years. He played 15 years. How much of your career, like the majority of Penny Hardaway's career, he was an injured role player.
Right. Exactly.
So it's kind of hard for me to do that.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah. You may have convinced me to move him down more than a few spots. So we'll see who we have to replace them with. But let me go back to Let me go back to what it was before. Okay, yeah. So now it's in order. Yeah, we spent a lot of time on this, which we have all the time in the world now because no one's coming on after us. But is there anyone else you wanted to talk about from
Yeah,
either?
I mean, I think you're undervaluing Clyde Drexler. I think you're undervaluing, like, Clyde Drexler to me was the second best player in 1992. I think
Okay.
Clyde Drexler before he got before the Olympics and Michael Jordan just like just mentally destroyed him. I think for that 7-year period of time, he was one of the 10 best players in the league, averaging like 23, 7, and 7 as a shooting guard. The fact that he was the best player on a 61 win team, the fact that he went to 2 NBA finals, and he
Yeah.
realistically could have beaten the Pistons. Now, could he have realistically have beaten the Bulls? I don't know, but there's a reason why I went to a 6-game series. There's a reason why it was tied, so that's my thing, is that I feel like there are a few guys that you're not valuing as much, and there's certain guys I think you're valuing too much. Like, I have Drexler over Dave Cowens and Elvin Hayes. I have Gary Payton over Russell Westbrook and Walt Frazier.
Gary Payton, yeah, that was an interesting one to me because I'm someone who I feel like has high, I'm higher on Gary Payton than most, but like once I actually name the players, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not as high, but which why do you have him ahead of Walt? Yeah, that one's interesting to me.
Gary Payton was the best player on 3 teams that won 60 plus games. Gary Payton was the best player on a team that went to an NBA Finals. Gary Payton was an MVP candidate. So you can argue that Gary Payton was a top 5 guy at least 3 or 4 times in his career. Gary Payton, before the explosion of the point guards in 2000, had one of the best point guard peaks of all time at 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists with great defense while leading a team that was really that lost Kemp. Vin Baker was an alcoholic. Hersey Hawkins was no longer there. Detlef Schrempf was gone. Like, that team was kind of a corpse of what it used to be, and he carried them to 45 wins. It's just because it doesn't have triple double behind it that people don't care about it.
Right.
But that's my thing, is that I think he's similar to Russell Westbrook in the fact that he was known as an erratic, high intensity, trash talking, athletic guard. The difference is Gary Payton just had more success as the number one option, which is what I value. Like, if you were that good, you should, like, if Kyrie Irving is as good as everybody tries to make him out to be, then he should have been a number one option. But there's a reason why constantly they put guys ahead of him. And I think it's the same thing with Gary Payton. There's a reason why people named him the best player. And I know people said, oh, Sean Kemp. Sean Kemp couldn't create a shot to save his life. There's a reason why when he joined Cleveland, he was shooting like 45% from the field and 43%. There's a reason why. It's because he relied on one of the best point guards in the league to give him the fucking ball.
Yeah, Sean Kemp wasn't better than Payton. Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, I've heard a couple people say that, but yeah, I don't find that credible at all. Talked about Worthy. Let's see, anyone else here?
I like how we both have Chris Webber in the same spot.
Yeah, there's a couple of those that we're very like dead similar. Yeah, Paul George in the same exact spot too. Like, it's and Dame too. Yes, yeah. So like, yeah, between between those 4 guys, Paul George, Dame, Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid. When it comes down to it, the reason I have Joel Embiid so low, and I trash Joel Embiid a lot on the show, but I trust all 3 of those guys ahead of Joel Embiid in the playoffs. When the playoffs come.
Do you trash an Embiid because you're a Celtics fan?
I'm sure that's part of it, but no, like it's just a matter of like you know what it is. It's that like every single time that I've critiqued him, like I've always been proven right. That's the thing. Like my entire thing is that again, I don't enjoy it as much as I used to because like it's kind of punching down at this point. But when it comes down to it, if you're building your team to win a championship, there are like solid 7 or 8 guys that I'd rather have ahead of Embiid because he's either going to foul bait in the playoffs or he's going to not play at all in the playoffs. So yeah, like I just don't trust the guy, and I know that 67 may seem a little too low to some people, but like I think it's the perfect spot.
I think it is a little low. I get your reasoning, and honestly, I think it's fair. My thing is that, and this is what I'll say right now, because a lot of people accuse me of being a hater. A lot of people accuse me of being disrespectful. A lot of people accuse me of legitimately hating or not liking these players as if I know who these human beings are. And some of them, I don't know them, but you do enough research. Some of these NBA players are not exactly great people.
Right.
But my thing is, the only person that I actually have a bias towards is Dwight Howard.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember the whole thing that happened with me and Dwight Howard. I'm not exactly proud of it. I probably could have done a better job of debating it now that I know more. My thing is with Embiid and Dwight Howard, and this is where I think Dwight Howard tends to be a little overrated, because I think fans and Twitter, you know, they like the idea of Dwight Howard, they like the highlights, they like the dunks, and they think that, oh my God, this guy was unstoppable. This guy was unstoppable because there was nobody else in the league. And I don't mean like, oh, this guy was a one-of-a-kind player. I legitimately mean there were no other fucking bigs in the league. Now, there were the obvious guys like Gasol, Tim Duncan, and Dirk, and Kevin Garnett. But this is Kevin Garnett when Dwight Howard's peaking after knee surgery. This is Tim Duncan, who for a period of time was just getting older and was clearly dropping in production and in terms of importance to his team. This is Pau Gasol, who's on the Western Conference, who's seeing Dwight Howard once. Go look at the competition that Dwight Howard had to see in the Eastern Conference. Most of the time he was peaking and priming. It's guys like Andrea Bargnani and Brook Lopez and Jermaine O'Neal and Andrew Bogut. It was either like some of the worst competition you'll ever see.
No, the 2010s is easily the worst, or like late 2000s, early 2010s, easily the worst era for big men.
But hold on, and that's the reason why Dwight Howard looks so great, and he wasn't even producing great. Like, go look at by the time Dwight Howard in 2012 was making his final All-NBA first team, compares All-NBA first team to all the other centers. Alonzo Mourning. I don't even know who else. Alonzo Mourning is probably the closest comp that he has in terms of actual production. I would say Alonzo still performed better than him. Dwight Howard was not that great of an offensive player. He was a good offensive player. He dominated against Zdrunas Ilgauskas and Anderson Varejao, but he just wasn't that great of a number one option. And the Magic just had a ahead of its time offense. And I just don't think he's better or greater than Joel Embiid.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that he was like, I don't know, I'm sure you know the stat. He was either fourth in field goal attempts in either in the finals or in like that play, or like in the playoff run. Like on that team, but yeah, like if Celtics bias coming in here. If Garnett is plays in the 2009 season, the Magic,
you guys win the championship.
The 09 team was better than the 08 team. So
tell that to the Kobe fans.
Exactly. Cool. We went over time for the segment, which is completely fine. But like, is there any last player you wanted to maybe shout out or give mention to before this?
I think you have McGrady a little too low. I think you have Vince Carter too high.
Okay.
I just feel like, and like maybe
I've a slight Raptors bias now that I think about it, but like for no reason whatsoever. But we'll see.
I just think the thing with Vince, who I think is one of the most disappointing NBA players, I think it's insane that he was on an NBA cover. I think it's slightly insane that the Raptors retired his jersey. I get it, but I think Kyle Lowry should have been the first Raptors player to have his jersey retired. I think I would have retired Kawhi Leonard's jersey before I would have retired Vince Carter's. I think Vince Carter, with all the talent in the world, failed. The fact that basically after 01, he was never considered a top 10 player. The fact that by 2007, he's done as like a actual legitimate player. Maybe you can extend that to 2008 or 2009, but the majority of his career, he's a role player. Like, he played 22 years, like 14 or 13 or even 12 years of his career. He's a role player. And I just don't value that. I know he was a decent number one option, and maybe I'm hating too much, but I just feel like Vince Carter really failed on his potential.
Yeah. Don't really know too much about Vince Carter's career, honestly. Like once you get to the late hundreds, like the late 90s, that's when it gets really tough. You're really splitting hairs, but
sorry if
no. Like no. I'm always looking to make adjustments to the list. So cool. So so now we can actually just talk about we'll turn on our current day brains now to go to the we'll talk about the ringers list now. So it's consists of Bill Simmons, Danny Cho, Zach Cram, Ron Mahoney, big fan of Ron Mahoney, Michael Pena, and Justin Verrier. So they basically just put their list together once a while, and then they make changes to the list. So
I did have a question.
Yes.
Is this going into the season, or is this so far with the season?
I don't know. It's not going into the season because it was literally just updated yesterday. So there's a couple things changed because they made updates to it because they talk about a few things. But there's really not much to disagree with to begin. Like I do think that Giannis is better than Luka. And I was surprised that they do have Tatum ahead of Shea. I think that's because I know that Mahoney said. What's your take on that, by the way? Because he's like I can argue Jason Tatum over Shea, like, and I know, and like I can make a strong argument for both sides. Like don't go around. Like I do have my biases, but like I do try to remain objective, like with my list. But like do you think there is an argument for Tatum over Shea, or are you strongly? Yeah.
No, I have no. See, my list is a little different than theirs, and I dropped the video today. I think that they're underrating LaMelo Ball. I think they're overrating Luka a tiny bit. I think that they're not appreciating Tatum as much. I don't think they're appreciating Anthony Davis as much. I have Tatum above Davis and Shea. I think Tatum right now is the second best player in the league. I think the fact that offensively he's been really carrying that load with Brown, who's kind of having a weird start to the season, and no Porzingis and Peyton Pritchard having just this weird, like, really good offensive season, which I don't think is going to continue. Yeah. I think Tatum is the second best player in the league. I think Tatum's versatility is just on point. The fact that he is just a really solid playmaker, the fact that he's a great defender, the fact that a really good defender and a really good rebounder and a really good scorer. Tatum is just weirdly just underappreciated. I just feel like people don't understand how impactful and important he is to the Celtics just because he's playing with a bunch of other really good players. And guess what? He's playing with all these really good players, and he's still the best player. He's their best scorer. He's one of their best rebounders. He's one of their best playmakers. He's one of their best defenders. He's their go-to guy in the clutch. I just don't get it.
You don't become a juggernaut from having deep depth. You become a juggernaut from having deep depth and from having one of the best players in the league. They're the best team. They're off to a great start, but they're not as great as they were last year. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Rob Mahoney, but I did disagree with this segment. So I don't think anyone would deny that Tatum is a more versatile player between the two. Versatility goes so far when you slack it up against elite best in the class shot creation. SGA creates the flow that carries the Thunder, allowing OKC's other players to draft off his wake. It's just a different level of creative responsibility. Tatum can win the title while regularly scoring in the teens because his team is built for that. Shea does not have that luxury. He has to be the unstoppable creator, and luckily for the Thunder, he is. And first of all, Tatum doesn't regularly score in the teens. It's like once in a while that like he'll just have like a bad efficient night and then that happens. But like if we're talking overall creation, like Tatum is constantly creating for others. He's like not even just doing the driving kick, but he's like driving somewhere like into like throwing the ball across court, like finding the right guy. That in addition to his versatility. Like, do I think that Shea's a better creator than Tatum? Yes, but I do think the versatility does outweigh the shot creation in my opinion. So.
Yeah, and also guess what? I think Tatum just does more on the court now. It's because he's a forward and he's bigger, yeah. But I just feel like the thing is with Shea is that he's a very flawless and like effortless scorer. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, I don't really think he does much else. Like he's a solid defender, but he's definitely not one of the better defenders on his team. That's the reason why they have Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, J-Dub.
Yeah.
I think the fact is that they just need him to score. The fact that they have all these other players to take care of all these other things.
Exactly.
While the Celtics, they still rely on Tatum to score and to play make and to rebound and to defend and all these other things. So I think that does what make him better than Shea. I also feel like they're underrating Anthony Davis. Again, I have Anthony Davis as a top 3 player, and they have him as the 8th best player. Yep. I have LaMelo Ball as the 9th best player. I think what LaMelo Ball
why don't you expand on that actually, because where do they have him again? What are they
25?
25? Yeah. Oof.
That's why I just don't, because they have John Morant, they have Joel Embiid above him, they have Tyrese Halliburton above him, they have Domantas Sabonis above him, they have Paolo Banchero, who's only played like 5 games. Like, I don't know. Like, my dream is to work for Bill Simmons or work for ESPN or work for somebody. And I just want to say that if I were to come on there, I would tell you LaMelo Ball, in no real world would I ever think that LaMelo Ball is playing like a top 10 player, but he's carrying this Hornets team. They're about to beat my Detroit Pistons. So they're going to go 6-9 on the regular season. The only reason they're 6-9 is because of LaMelo Ball. He's making Miles Bridges and Brandon Miller and all these other guys better than what they actually look like. He's scoring so efficiently. The way he's playing is just so amazing. And like their offense is really LaMelo Ball or nothing. And I feel like they're underappreciating that. And the reason, and he's just playing better than guys like Embiid, Halliburton, Sabonis, or Paolo. Like, these guys are either barely playing or not playing that great. And I think that kind of goes into Luka. They have Luka as the 2nd best player. I have Luka as the 6th because guess what? He isn't playing up to Luka standards. He's not as efficient, and I don't think he's impacting his team as he usually does. I don't know what's going on with Luka because his defense is also kind of messing his team up. This is a very questionable list. They have LeBron James outside the top 10. I don't know how I feel about all this.
I think it's just one of those things where like they like each of them had their own list heading to the season, and then like they'll change up a couple things, but they're not willing to change they're not willing to change their minds so much. But however, like when they like you mentioned, like nobody had Paolo at 21 heading into the year. But I think I'm like 28, 29, like because
other than Magic fans.
Yeah, exactly. anyone else that was really like outrageous? Wemby is not the 16th best player in the league. Like that's another projection thing.
Yeah, I think again these guys are looking at the idea of these
Yes,
NBA players. Like
yes,
Joel Embiid is
yes,
ninth, not because of what he's doing this season. It's what he did last season, the year prior to that. Tell
exactly.
me how they're doing right now. I don't want to
Mhm.
know. Oh, well, this guy can do it, so I expect him to do it. It's like no,
Right,
if he's not doing it, that means he's not doing it. And he's
exactly.
also played in 3 games. He should not be a top 10 player.
Yeah,
I don't really, I always found that really strange when people try to do that. Like they have Kawhi Leonard as the 23rd best player in the league. He hasn't played a game.
and he hasn't been in lockdown. Number one option lockdown defender. He hasn't been in lockdown defender since 2019. But
Like, how are you going to put a guy who
yeah,
hasn't played a game
I don't know. Yeah,
on the list? Paul
yeah,
George, like
yeah.
all these guys. Like, I just don't get it. I love Bill Simmons and I will defend Bill Simmons,
Well,
but this is such a strange thing to
Bill
do.
Simmons had Embiid at 25. So yeah, so if anything, the guys had Embiid higher, but like he's the one that pulled them down actually. So, Cat should be higher. Like if we're talking about this, he should the season that he's having, he's 100% a top 20 player. But yeah, we don't need to read through every single player. But J Dub, I like the spot for J Dub. Paul George 30. I think Dane's had a better season than Paul George, despite the disappointment win wise. Chet's the injury concern, but yeah, he would definitely be higher than 32. Yeah, was there anyone else on the list that you strongly disagreed with? Because like overall, like I really didn't find too much to like pick at because it's tough. Yeah, it's tough to rank like only like 15 games into the year, but yeah, a couple of these are interesting to say the least.
I don't think it's that hard. I just feel like their reasoning for some of these things is a little strange. Like again, Embiid was only played like 4 or 5 games,
Mhm.
and he hasn't really helped the Sixers.
No,
Halliburton's playing terrible.
Albert's playing terrible. That's right.
Kawhi Leonard hasn't even played.
Yeah.
Paolo hasn't played in like 2.5 weeks. Like, how are these guys? I don't get it. Just say, hey, he's no longer, he hasn't been playing, so he's out of the list. When he plays, we'll throw him back in the list, see how he does.
Right.
I don't want to know why. I don't really care that he was good, so therefore he, should be on the list. I don't really care about that. I don't think that means anything or should matter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'm the weird one.
All right, cool. So, it's a close game, the Pistons game. 5-point game, so maybe the Pistons come back.
Oh, really? They're coming back? Hell yeah! Never mind. Fuck the Hornets and fuck LaMelo.
The Wolves up 3 on the Raptors and the Jazz up 16 on the Spurs. The Jazz taking
How does it feel being a Celtics fan? It must feel great.
It does.
It must be great. My team made the playoffs twice.
I am, however, a New York Giants fan. So yes. So like, I've been a little. Then again, they've won 2 championships in my lifetime, so I can't really explain too much. But yeah,
I've made the playoffs twice in my lifetime.
Like, are you do like anything else besides basketball, or no?
Not really. I just feel like football is not as interesting, but I'll watch the Super Bowl and I'll watch the Lions.
Yeah.
Baseball to me is boring. NHL, I don't understand it. Soccer only because my dad watches it.
Yeah, it goes basketball. It's like basketball up here for me. Baseball's like slightly lower, and then like big step below is football. Like which I'm like a basketball nerd. Like I like know almost as much about baseball, but like both football is pretty low below that. But so like we'll talk a little bit about the cup. There's really not much to dive into because it's mostly just the regular season with a couple of things mixed in. But
is the cup happening? I didn't know it was happening. Does anybody care about the NBA Cup? Oh, my bad. The Emiratis Cup. My bad.
I haven't called it that ever. Like I've called it the in-season tournament. I've called it the NBA Cup. It's a little snobby if you ask me to call it like the Emirates Cup. No, just call it whatever, the in-season.
And the All-Star game, they changed their format, which broke my heart.
I think it's a cool idea, but like when I think about it, like when I like think about why they're doing this, it's because the players don't care, and that breaks my heart.
Yeah, man, they're just messing up NBA history. Like, look, just keep it the same. It doesn't matter. I don't care if the fans are upset or whatever. It's just like at some point they're eventually gonna play harder. I don't like. They just made it too personal about the players instead of the game. That's the thing, is that they made it about players picking the players, and I get that, but they should have just kept it to TV. They should have made the format of 2020 where it's just like you're playing for kids, you're winning for a charity organization. They're going to get money no matter what, but we can invest more. Like,
right.
I don't know. Like, just keep it the same. The fact that they had to do this format just kind of is a defeat to NBA history and all this other stuff. Like, it just breaks my heart.
Yeah, and I think that Joe Star Jokic tweeted out saying like, yeah, it's funny how the NBA like does like does like literally everything to like change the all-star format, but they haven't like done anything to change like load management or or like regular season injuries, like the relevancy of the regular season. They'll address like the most like irrelevant issues, but then they're like but then they're like okay, oh, viewership is down, who cares? Like X amount of players are getting injured in the first week. Oh, who cares about that? But like
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, it's like one. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's just
I
weird.
don't really care about David Stern because David Stern was my commissioner for only like 4 or 5 years, so like that's whatever. But David Stern would not stand for this. David Stern would kick some of these players' ass
Yes.
if they were acting the way that they were acting right now. Adam Silver, I get it, but like he's way too player friendly. He's way too player friendly, man. You give these guys whatever they want, then they're just not going to care. There's a reason why the All-Star game has like slowed down in terms of like the quality, is because they don't care about what you have to say. That you gave them all the money in the world. They don't care about having to do this or that because you gave them everything they want. Like if you had just sat down and said, everybody's going to sit down and you guys are going to shut the fuck up and I have something to say, these players have to listen to you.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need to listen to them. You're the commissioner.
Yes.
You can do whatever you want. David Stern would not allow LeBron James to be like, nah. He'd be like, what you mean, nah?
Yeah. And and then who was like, let's see, who was it? Yeah, like he's obviously Obama on like the Young Men in 3 podcast. You would think like he would think like the goddamn president like would maybe be a guy that they listen to, but like maybe they will have to nab after this point, but we'll see. So okay, so so we can kind of just fly over the NBA Cup. So the East leaders as of now, so we got the Magic, the Hawks, and the Pistons are 2-0 in the as far as the division leaders. The Pistons are they're only half a game ahead of the Bucks though. So depending on what happens there, but you gave your clear sense on how you feel about the tournaments. Yeah, we don't really have to dive into the tournament as a whole, but like, is there any team that you feel like is going to be great in the that you feel like could be great in the cup, but like maybe not as great in like a big regular either later in the regular season or in the playoffs?
Weirdly, I find that I think the Bucks are going to just win some of these cup games just because they happen to be cup games.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like the Pistons are on a really good stretch because the thing about the Pistons is that we are so athletic and so like long that we just end up winning some of these games and we just end up like scraping out these wins that I feel like we can accidentally get ourselves to the NBA Cup. And look, if my first banner in my Pistons fandom is an in-season tournament, I think I might legitimately crash out. I legitimately might just be like, all right, I'm just never going to win a championship, am I? I'm going to live to 67 and I'm going to never have an NBA championship to my name, but I will have an in-season tournament. I will go insane. So I just don't think this in-season tournament matters. I know it makes games in November important, but I just feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just for the casual fan, but like I've just always said, like the games in November and December are important. It's because it sets the foundation and the momentum for later. But to the average NBA fan, they just don't care.
And I know that it wasn't Silver. Someone came out with a report that's saying like the NBA is considering moving the tournament to like later in the season, to like prevent it from being on Tuesdays and Fridays, so they don't have to compete with the NFL. Which I said, I said last year they should push back like another month because like it feels weird to like for an in-season tournament to be like just in the very beginning of the year. But not that it matters really at the end of the day, because like you said,
keep it in the beginning of the season. Like
you think
it has no place because it's just going to be coinciding with All-Star Weekend, and then
that's what I'm saying. I feel like it should I feel like it would have been cool to end like right before All-Star break. So so it could be like a nice no. Okay, yeah, I feel like
I just feel like it should be in the, like, for example, the 2024-2025 season. It should stay in the year before. You know, it shouldn't coincide with the championship. It shouldn't coincide with the All-Star weekend or All-Star whatever.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I just like it gives it like I don't think it serves any purpose, but its purpose is to give games in the beginning of the season some kind of purpose. Because after the year, we're focused on the All-Star break and then how people are playing leading up to it. And at this point, like 40 games have played, so now All-Star MVP cases and Rookie of the Year and all those cases are being built. So we're focusing on those narratives, and the NBA Cup just It just means nothing, but its purpose is to give the beginning of the season more purpose. And
Right.
I think you should just keep it there. Let it end by the end of the year, so then we don't have to think about it.
Fair. Yeah, so my prediction for the cup at the beginning of last week, I said it was going to be the Cavs versus the Warriors. And because like I said, because
I love that. I love that.
Because I said like it's the beginning of the year, like they like the NBA is able to rig something like this. Like like they like, I'm not saying they rigged it last year, but like they have the ability to. Like they did it last year with LeBron, like being the first winner. Let's make another storyline to be the Cavaliers versus the Warriors. Steph Curry versus like an old Cavalier, like a new fun Cavalier.
Warriors Cavs Part 5.
Yeah, exactly.
In-season tournament edition.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, this is perfect. Oh my god, you know like how all these TV shows are becoming like oh my god, this is like a streaming version, like like a streaming exclusive, like South Park having their regular shows and their movies, and then here's the streaming exclusive.
Yes,
this is Warriors Cavaliers Part 5 streaming exclusive now on HBO Max,
YouTube TV. Yeah,
YouTube TV. Oh no, God, this is the Lion King 2 of the Curry Warriors Cavaliers rivalry. This is Aladdin 2. This is a straight to DVD Part 5 set. God, no, that's hilarious, Chris. That's hilarious.
Lion King 2 is one of my favorite movies going up, but okay, we can talk about that another day.
It was all right.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, like it was fine, but like it's one of those things where like you enjoyed things more as a kid. But all right, so I think yes. We spent most of the show talking about all time things, which is perfectly. I'm very happy we did that because I haven't done that in a while. It's one of those things that you run out of things to talk about in the beginning of the year. So, but thanks Kev, thanks for coming on. Yeah, do you want to give some plugs before I sign off?
Yeah, just check out my account, watch my videos, see my lives. The number one thing that I say on my lives is, look, I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just saying that I have strong reasoning and logic and belief behind what I say. And I know, some people have been making videos on me saying that I'm like they don't like my content or they don't like the way I think. And it's just like, look, I'm not going to look at nostalgia. I'm not going to look at my feelings about how I feel about a player. I'm just looking at their career and where does it stand and how does it actually look? Not what I wish it looked like, not what I hoped it looked for, not what I thought it looked like. What did it actually look like?
Right.
And that's basically just my 2 cents on that, just because so many people have been complaining. And I don't care. That's the thing, is I don't care about I don't really care about how other people think or feel about me, whether they like or hate me. I just know that this is why I say it. This is why I believe in it. And this is my reasoning for it. And if you don't like it, then it sounds like a you problem, not a me problem.
Yeah, can't please everyone for sure, especially those that that don't do the research, which, let's be honest, a lot of people on the internet don't. So
yeah, oh my god, dude, you should have seen my live today. The amount of people that kept telling me that Kyrie Irving was a better scorer than Shaq, or the fact that Derrick Rose should be a top 20 guard of all time, or the fact that just the number one problem I had was I had a top 20 guards list, and some people kept asking, where's Kyrie? And I don't have Kyrie. I have him 34th.
There's so many of them that it wasn't recently because I haven't gotten live in a little bit, but like Kyrie is always a big one. Obviously Kobe is a big one. But I'll just see some.
What's your reasoning for having Kobe at 9?
What's my reason for having Kobe at 9?
Yeah, because we didn't talk about that, and he's usually the one guy I have to talk about the most.
Yeah. I just think that he was, if we're talking like overall, so peak, I don't think he was as good as the 8 guys ahead of him. And also, his career wasn't like he didn't start off his career as elite as the other 8 guys ahead of him. Like you saw, like I can go through each of those 8 guys and dissect each of their careers, and they started off elite. Kobe did not do that. So he wasn't as good at his best, and also he didn't start as good at his best. That's my main rationale, I think.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like, again, like I said earlier, the Kobe longevity thing is so overrated. Like he has good longevity. Like I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
He has the same longevity as Shaq, though. He has the same longevity as a bunch of other guys. He has 14 or 15 quality years. But people just look at the fact that he played 20 and they're like 20 great years. It's like, no, he averaged 7 points per game in his rookie year. He averaged 14 points a game in his second year. He was terrible his last 3 years because he was hurt. That's 5 years. And then I don't know how you feel about the lockout year. So I don't know. Right. It's just the whole Kobe thing is weird to me. I just never understood it.
Yeah. It sounds like a good way to sign off, because my brothers hate Kobe, so they'll be very pleased to hear that the end of this episode was a negative portion about Kobe. So, all right, well, Kev, thanks a ton for coming on. Very happy to be able to do this. I'm sure we'll be back on track by going live with each other later on TikTok. So. Thanks for everyone else. Thanks so much for tuning into another show. Follow me on all my accounts, All Maker and Hooper. Take a look at my column on primetimesportstalk.com. I write about baseball, basketball, and a little bit of football. Not really football anymore, but this has been another episode of the All American Hoops podcast. Thanks a ton, and have a great night, everyone.
Canada. Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.